When your wife says she's done, it can be a really frustrating time. All you want to do is talk about the problems, but she refuses to open up. On today's video, I'm going to teach you 3 tips to get your wife to open up and start talking about the problems. Now, if we haven't met each other, my name's Luke Finn, and I'm the founder of the ARC system, where we help dads struggling in a marriage transform their marriage into a new unbreakable marriage. And today, I'm joined by our ARC legends to help you deal with the issues in your marriage. ARC legends assemble. How you beautiful motherfuckers doing? All good? Wonderful. All right, guys. The question that we have today is from Ryan from Canada. And his question is, how can I encourage my wife to open up and talk about our problems? So you guys have all been there. You know that frustration of when you get the realization of the things where things went wrong in the marriage and all you want to do is fix it. But let's try and help you. All you guys have navigated that. Let's try and help give Ryan and all of our viewers here some sound advice on how they can proceed here. So guys, let's start off first with, why is Ryan's wife refusing to open up after she said she's done? Levi, you wanna take that one?
Yeah, sure thing. Most likely, if your relationship is at this point, there's some emotional safety that has been damaged, and she's refusing to conversate. There's many ways that probably got her to that point, whether it took time to get there, obviously. Could be communication problems, lack of leadership, not hearing her, and ultimately, maybe the arguing, maybe you were yelling, or just different facets that eroded emotional safety, and she checked out of the marriage.
Right on. And for those so everybody watching that's maybe not familiar with emotional safety, how would you describe emotional safety?
Well, I think, when you get into a relationship, obviously, you connect. And so part of that connection is gone and they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe to express their feelings and their emotions, essentially. Right. And when that happens, they check out.
Right on. Yeah. So the emotional safety is our ability to express ourselves without the fear of being judged by our wives, and vice versa. So it's a safe place exactly to discuss everything, not just the good things, but also the kind of more sensitive topics. Okay, what about you, Cowboy? What do you think has got Ryan's wife shut down and not willing to discuss the marriage?
Levi kind of touched on it there with the time. So you have this time period where she'd been done for weeks, months, even years, and she just doesn't want to go. Like, she just doesn't want to deal with anything, or that she's already decided, hey, I'm not giving any of my energy to this. So you bring it up, it's just gonna get her even more upset, get her even more annoyed, and shut her down even more.
Right. And I think this is one of the biggest things that we as men we struggle to deal with, right? Is usually our wives have been done for months or even years. So you're constantly playing catch up after the fact. And that can be a really painful process. And let's also make it very clear for everybody that watches this video, it's totally normal to be chasing after your wife. It's totally normal to be wanting to push the topic of the relationship, especially when, it's come out of you've been blindsided, you didn't see it coming. It's totally normal to want to try and start those conversations. But what we want to make very clear today, though, it's not helpful and it's actually not healthy. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail later. What about you, Falcon? What do you think is the reason, one of the reasons that Ryan's wife won't open up? So we've covered emotional safety being eroded and that she's been done for years.
Well, yeah, it's a combination of what you guys all touched up on. And primarily it's the behaviors that you've developed throughout your relationship, right? Which is, like trying to force her to talk during, like Cowboy said, she's been done for years, right? Or trying to pursue, to find clarity, or trying to over-explain, or using emotions as leverage, So these are some of the behaviors that we all do without knowing, and you get to a point where you're like literally walking on eggshells, trying to fix everything in the relationship at the wrong time, rather than looking inwards. You're being needy,
right?
And you develop these behaviors. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the behavior is repulsive, and I mean the way we've described it there, it's pretty strong. What I would say is the behavior is quite normal. It's human behavior when your primary relationship breaks down and she pulls away. I think it's totally normal human behavior to try and chase and want to repair that. But ultimately, like you said, Falcon, it's the wrong time to be doing that. You start acting needy, and actually what you're showing to your wife is, well, you don't have any value, and you'll do anything just to try and reconcile, no matter what the cost, right? And as we all know in the ARC system, your self-dignity and your self-worth should never be sacrificed. So the cost does matter. Okay, guys, then let's move on then to what do you think are the common mistakes then that we make as men? So when it comes to trying to start these conversations. So why does it never work out well when our wives check out and they won't open up and we start trying to start these conversations? What are the common mistakes that we make? Levia, do you have any input on that one?
Yeah, I think a lot of times we kind of try to force, or we like to control sometimes, and we try to get into the situation and force the conversation because we want answers. I think we're somewhat built like that when we don't really do some deeper work to understand. And that can come across as manipulative or controlling, and that could backfire and make the situation worse, which is obviously not what you want when you're in a situation like this. So then maybe we show pony and we display behaviors and go about doing things that, like you said, seem needy, but then I think a lot of times the response you'll get is like too little too late, and they don't believe it. It seems fake because why all of a sudden now, right? So that's probably the exact opposite effect you want to have. And so there's got to be a deeper way to control yourself and step back so that you don't have these common mistakes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sharing, Levia. What about you, Cowboy? What do you think are some other common mistakes? Maybe reflecting on your marriage, what do you feel like were mistakes that you made when it came to trying to start that conversation again?
Well, I was definitely guilty of the show pony. The show pony experience that Levia was just talking about. That was sustainable for maybe a week or two at a time. It was just, the cycle just seemed like it got worse and worse every time it would repeat itself. It just got worse and worse and worse. But then talking on cycles, that's one of the mistakes we make. We just allow that cycle to keep on happening.
Yeah.
You start off like you get real soft or whatever, and whatever you want to call it, you get real soft, and you do exactly what she wants or exactly what you think she wants, and then she starts getting aggravated again, or the tension starts building up again almost immediately, and then it just kind of pops, if you will, and you just repeat yourself over and over and over again after a huge blow up or whatever, and then it goes back to what we were already talking about with the erosion of emotional safety and solidifying her position on, what, I'm done with this.
Yeah, because you're coming across inauthentic, right? You're not being yourself.
Completely. And then you start it all over again. You go back to your metaphorical crawling on your knees to try to win her back, and then it just keeps in that vicious cycle until it ends one way or the other.
Right. Okay. Falcon, maybe you could share a little bit. We heard Cowboy and Levia talking about being a show pony. So for anybody watching this back and are not familiar what that term means, which was coined by ourselves in the ARC system. So what is a show pony?
Yeah, show pony is just trying to display the best version of yourself. While you're trying to be authentic, it comes across as like it's something that that you want to display. If metaphorically, if she says jump, you say, oh, how high, Right. So that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, it's a good description, man. And what kind of behaviors would you guys describe as show pony? Like,
well, trying to over explain or defend your position, why, why, especially, and it all comes back to emotional safety, right? Because you're trying to show pony the best version of yourself. trying to force logic into her feelings. You know, which though it only ends up invalidating her and showing her that, oh, this is you know, you're wrong because of this.
Yeah.
And then, you know, look at me.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. What about Cowboy and Levia? Do you have any other input on like what other types of behaviors? So Falcon's covered a couple there. What are the kind of behaviors that maybe you guys did that was when you were acting like a show pony?
Oh man. So I start doing things like showing my sweeter, more romantic side, if you will. Yeah.
We all know that side well now, Cowboy. You big softy. I know you
No,
like chocolates.
yeah, no, just doing little things like that, like bringing her chocolates, like randomly or what. I mean, it's something that I would do before, but it kind of slowed down, and then it would just ramp up as I'm trying to do my show pony, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know what, here I got these flowers just because, or here I just got these chocolates just because, or I got this because I was thinking about you, or I'll go around and, you know, do a couple extra little house chores, that she would normally do. And like you said already, it just comes off as completely inauthentic, and because you're not normally going above and beyond your standard position on this, like whatever it is. She knows what you normally do.
Yeah. So the behavior becomes to her abnormal, and that is again kind of triggers something within her where she's like, this is not really him. This isn't real change. He's trying to manipulate me, which is what Levia was talking about earlier, right? Where
Because there's something
really
to roll her eyes at.
Yeah, yeah. Where you guys are really trying your best. I mean, she's explained the problems she's had. You then try and resolve them, but that doesn't work. Right? It's really crazy. All right, guys.
To be clear, it's not that you're inauthentic or your heart's not in the right place, because it is, but it's the way they perceive it, right? Because that isn't your authentic self. Because if you were doing that before, you might have not been in the position now, and so that's why it's a more of an inward reflection of working on your own stuff. If you really want to be authentic with yourself, almost,
Exactly. And that's what I mean, to refine that statement regarding inauthentic. It's inauthentic in the fact that you're doing it to get an outcome. So you're doing it so that she sees a change. You're doing it so she checks back in. And that is inauthentic in itself, but you mean it well, right? That's what you're talking about there, Levia. All right. Yeah. So let's then have a look for Ryan then 3 steps to actually get her to open up. So the biggest one is you got to regulate your emotions. So when your wife says she's done, it's a total shit show. Right, it's a very, very difficult situation. We wouldn't wish it on anyone, and unfortunately, 50% of men will have to go through it at some point. So, guys, why is it so important for Ryan to regulate his emotions when she said she's done? And do you think he's regulated his emotions if he's trying now, asking the question of how I get her to open up? So, Falcon, you want to have a go at that one?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, you just gotta regulate your emotions first. Show that you can listen without like exploding or without fighting or without shutting down. It's something that we just tend to do. Because there's something within you that isn't jiving. You don't that doesn't that. Something is triggering you inside of you, so your the emotional safety is not there.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. What about you, Levia? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a traumatic experience. We're shocked, right? And we want to react. We want to fix. That's just how a lot of men are built, and so we want to jump in and try to do something and fix something that's emotional logically, like we brought up earlier, and it's just not the way to go about it. And even unfortunately, if I was going to flay myself open, like it took a while before I kind of learned how to regulate my emotions. Sure. Once I even joined the ARC system, right? And I made a lot of those show pony mistakes or trying to force the situation. Yeah, my heart was in the right place, but ultimately the response was you're manipulating and controlling the situation. And so yeah, in hindsight and looking back, it's definitely the wrong route to go. And you really look at it, you have to control your own emotions. You have to be able to step back and just heal essentially first, because they're there. They might have been there for a couple years or months or however you want to look at it, and you're catching up. And until you can stabilize your emotions, how can you go in and have a calm conversation and really hear what she's saying?
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head there as well. What you said, Levi, you said when your wife checks out, it's traumatic. And I don't think that this is talked enough online. It's all about how do you win her back? How do you get her to check back in? Even this video, how do you get her to open up? And I mean, we do our best to spread this message, but ultimately this is what people are looking for. So we have to use these different titles to get people in to be able to explain them a healthy way of how to go through this. But it is traumatic. Your primary partner that you've had for years, anywhere between 10 to 30 years, maybe even longer, has said she's done and is giving you no chance of redeeming yourself. It's painful. And until we start really focusing on what's necessary with the healing process, you also said healing, then you're spinning your wheels, and it's a really painful process. So if this video is resonating with you guys and you'd like to learn our process of how to proceed and build back a new unbreakable marriage, check out our link below where we explain the ARC system in full detail. We got the full 1 hour ARC masterclass. You can find the link below. Click there and join us today. Okay, so yeah, we covered the importance of emotional regulation, really important. And there is no better time to learn how to regulate your emotion than when you're in the shitstorm, right? When your wife is checked out, it's about as difficult as life is going to get. It's one of the biggest challenges. Also, what's important is, you guys have hidden it, is the importance of you learning how to process your emotions. Nobody teaches us this. And usually from the experience that we've had as kids, when we started acting out as kids, we were shouted at, maybe hit, or whatever it was. I mean, we're all a bit older, so we grew up in that time where that was quite a normal thing. Obviously, we don't do that as much. So shouting, I would love to say I don't shout. Sometimes if you guys were a fly on my wall, I can lose my shit sometimes. Yeah, nobody taught us how to regulate our emotions, right? That's, as kids, we were shut down, we were shouted at, we were shut down. And then as adults, we then get into a traumatic situation and we got all these emotions and we don't know what to do. And we're trying to raise our kids. They're having the meltdowns and then we're melting down with them. So really the emotional regulation, it's a wonderful opportunity. This is something, whether you're wanting to learn it because of what's happening in your marriage, it's such an important skill set that can be learned, that can be done through repetition. We teach that methodology in the ARC system. But there's also another really interesting part about that emotional regulation is co-regulation. So our autonomic nervous system, which is responsible for keeping us calm or putting us to fight or flight, it's there so basically to keep us alive. But what's interesting about our autonomic nervous system, it doesn't act alone. So we're co-regulating. So even me on the call with you guys here today, you're looking at my face, seeing how you're hearing my tonality, and you're making that decision. Am I safe here on this live video? And the same thing is happening, obviously, with your wives. Is when you're getting into these conversations, right? You're trying to push the topic of the relationship, and you're feeling needy. She picks up on that, and instead of co-regulating, as in you're calm, relaxed, and open, she feels threatened. You feel needy and also unsafe. And so this is why this whole shit show happens when you don't regulate your emotions first, right? And that's why in the ARC system, we also teach the communication frameworks later in the program. It's more important to get that emotional mastery dialed in. Okay, let's move on to the second tip then. Stop pursuing her. Like, this is so important. Guys, please help Ryan and the rest of the guys understand why it's so important to stop pursuing your wife when she says she's done, like telling her you're going to change, trying to start conversations. Why is that so important? Cowboy, you want to have a go?
Yeah, so we kind of touched on this all at some point or another. It comes off as just manipulative. That's really all it is. If it's going to be described in one term, it's going to be manipulative. You almost have to take an approach like, okay, cool, bye, I'm out, and really do your own thing, because otherwise she's just going to keep on getting turned away, and you're gonna stay in that cycle that I was talking about over and over and over again. Like, you're just gonna stay in that cycle, and it's gonna be never ending until again it ends. And you really, like I said, you really just gotta take that stance. Like, I'm all about me now. You have to get real selfish about it, in a sense, and just run with it.
Hmm. Do you think it's enough though? Because and I want to be clear this, because some people watching this video maybe have just found this video for the first time and they're hearing, you know what, you just need to be done with her and just focus on yourself. Is that really enough? If you just like, let's just like really go to the extreme here, because obviously you're in the ARC system, so you have a process to follow and the steps to follow in there. If someone who's watched this video and just go, you know what, okay, I'm gonna stop pursuing her, I'm just gonna do no contact, I'm fucking done. The bitch is dead to me. Is that gonna work?
Yeah, I can see how that sounds. No, it's not so much about just going no contact. It's just you gotta this ties into what we were just talking about too, about emotional regulation. That you gotta have enough resolve in yourself to take a step back and allow her to have that space. Okay, that's what you want. That's what you want. I'm gonna work on me. I'm gonna do me, but you do what you need to do. I'm here if you need anything, but I'm just going to focus on what I need to focus on.
Right. And I think what's also important here to remember, Cowboy, is like, she's checked out. Like, when you guys got married, it was till death do us part. It wasn't okay until we hit a hard time and then see you later, you know, I'm out. It was till death do us part. So her behavior, so we all understand, so we've done enough videos on why marriages fall apart and how you drift apart, and we already covered today about emotional safety being eroded. But we have to look at that behavior. Your wife checks out, she's saying she's done with you, so she's abandoning you. Like, there's no judgment here. We're not trying to say she's a bad person. You know, we don't have enough context on that, but one way or another, she's done with the relationship. It's so unhealthy when somebody says, you know, this is done, it's over, and you're not, I don't love you anymore. I don't see any value. I don't want to be with you. I don't see a future with you. That you then go and pursue her, like try and get her back. That is an unhealthy behavior. So it's a normal behavior, because as human beings, when we're pushed away, we're told we can't have anything or have something, then we want it more. We see that with kids. You know, you can't have that piece of chocolate, they want it more. You can't watch TV now, then they want to watch it more. It's just part of it, you know, that the human nature, that when we stop, you know, when something's taken away from us, we want it more. But it's really unhealthy when we then pursue her, because she has already said she's done. You're not giving her space to heal. But more importantly, because we only work with dads in this program, is you need space to heal, right? It's because, like Levi was saying, it's extremely traumatic. Now let's hit on the final third tip here for Ryan. The third tip is you got to rediscover yourself. Guys, how important? So maybe you can share a little bit before you enrolled in the ARC system. How lost were you, as far as your identity, from who you used to be when you were, like, let's say before you got married and had kids, all the way through to having kids with your wife, and then you came into the ARC system, obviously, because you guys were having troubles in your marriage. How much of your identity had you lost? Like, if you lost it completely, that would be a 10 on a sliding scale of 0. So, Levi, how much of your identity had you lost before you came into the ARC system?
Well, I did 6 or 7 at least. Yeah.
Okay, right up there. What about yourself, Cowboy?
I'd say 7, 8.
Right, and yourself, Falcon?
Yeah, 8, 9, maybe.
Yeah. So it's a normal thing to happen. So when we're getting on with life, we're trying to raise our kids. We all have jobs. We're providing, and we lose ourselves. It seems to be a very common theme that we just lose ourselves. So how important has it been for you guys rediscovering? And maybe you could give a little bit of context for somebody on the outside. What does it mean to rediscover yourself? So Falcon, you want to maybe share a little bit of that? Because all of you have had incredible journeys. And you're a big part of the ARC system now, and we really appreciate that you take the time showing up to share your wisdom on these calls as well, in these sessions, the ARC Roundtable. But yeah, Falcon, maybe you can share a little bit, like, what it meant for you rediscovering yourself.
Yeah, to me it was
like, did you get a sex change, or like, what does that mean exactly?
almost
Almost, yeah.
It was more of living your value, rediscovering your values and living them, and being steady. You know, like, it was, you know, and especially, I mean, we went through you know, a traumatic experience, not only in as a society, you know, through COVID, like that is unprecedented, you know, like
Yeah.
that's something, you know, we went through a pandemic, we were literally isolated from each other, right? And so, you know, we if there was something that we lost was ourselves during the pandemic, right? So, you know, we let the monotony of life, you know, get to us, and so now looking back and you know really redefining my values and my needs and understanding what's important to me, that's how I feel like I'm a grounded man man that you know actually that my kids look up to, you know, and
Yeah.
I show up, you know, confident rather than being in that state, in that show pony state, or you know that
Yeah.
chasing mentality or that neediness. You know, I show up grounded, and that's what's
Wonderful.
you know, looking back, that's like, oh wow, that's a big shift.
Yeah. Wonderful. Cowboy, how about you?
So you'll notice we all have these nicknames. You know, Falcon, Cowboy, Leviah. There's a reason why we have those nicknames. It's, you know, it's about going back and remembering who you were before all of this started, before you reach this point in your life, like wherever you're at in your life. It's about remembering who you were before reaching this point. And of course, you're never going to ever get back to that, but it's about remembering that and blending it with who you like, this part of you, who you are now. They Because back then you didn't have kids, you didn't have a wife, you didn't have many responsibilities, but you were still this wild and free version of yourself. And now you can't be that anymore. But you can take some of those aspects of who you were at then and still apply it to your time now, and you can step back into your authentic self,
Yeah.
if you will.
And
You know, remembering.
let's be honest, we don't want to go back to when we were teenagers or in our early 20s when we were probably anyway douchebags. It really is about taking that good stuff that we had, like you said, when we were free. But like all of us have had hardships in our lives. You're bringing another deeper quality to your life, and that is showing up as the next best version of yourself. So that's wonderful, Cowboy. What about you, Levi? What did
Yeah.
rediscovering yourself mean to you?
Well, I think even going back to the last tip, you know, you can like redefine it by if you're not going to pursue her, then what are you doing? You look at it as you're creating space to heal, creating space to find your authentic self and grow from that. And I think even if I look back at myself, you know, my name is Leviah. I like to fish, so part of it's fishing or golfing or you know getting in shape or you know working. But then again, you don't want to make distraction. There has to be a healthy balance, obviously. And you might even pick up some new things. Like I always wanted to run a marathon, so I started training and I ran a marathon. You know, just the simple things that you can find joy in life and rediscover who you are. Maybe it's you know reconnecting with friends and somehow you gain a little bit of peace in that, and then that's where you gain clarity and growth, and ultimately you know then you can start being calm again in who you are and really in control of yourself and having those deeper conversations. So it's a process, but it's also a balance of many facets of who you are.
Wonderful. Well, I want to say I'm really proud of all you guys. All of you have been in the ARC system for over a year, and you continue to show up and you continue to share your wisdom. And all of you have taken a bigger part in there and with helping newer guys going through the system. So thank you so much for explaining that, you know, about the importance of rediscovering yourself. So now that you understand what needs to do, so how you get your wife to open up when she is refusing to talk about the relationship, you want to watch this next video on how to rebuild emotional safety in your relationship.